What is up, everybody, and welcome to the Casual Wrestling Daily Podcast. I am your host, the notorious Nerdy D, the man who reads and deciphers the dirt sheets so you don't have to visit those dark, dirty places on the internet. If you are listening on podcast networks or watching on YouTube, make sure to like and leave a comment on this week's episode. It is with a heavy heart that I have to begin tonight's show with a little monologue. As many of you know already, or maybe some of my casual fans and listeners don't know, Jay Briscoe, a popular indie wrestler known for his work in Ring of Honor, passed away earlier at the age of 38. Now, this is a loss that has hit, I think, all of the wrestling community who's heard this news so far. It's hit us pretty hard. As Jay was not only a talented performer, but he was also a respected and beloved figure among his peers and his fans. And Jay had been a part of Ring of Honor for like probably over 20 years. Him and his brother Mark were a dominant force in the sport, and their impact on the industry will be felt for years to come. So, although the official cause of death has not been announced yet, it has been reported that he died in a car accident. And this, like I said, man, this is a truly tragic loss for his family, for friends. The entire wrestling community is going to mourn this passing. This is hard to deal with. And Jay's passing needs to be a reminder of the fragility of life and how one person can have such an incredible mark left on this world and left on a profession. His contributions to the sport will never be forgotten. And his fans, I think, will always remember him as, you know, maybe, I think it's safe to say, a legend of pro wrestling. So I just wanted to start the show giving our thoughts and prayers here at the Casual Wrestling Show. They're with Jay and his family, his loved ones. Hopefully, you know, they find some peace during this difficult time, but rest in peace, Jay Briscoe. You will be deeply missed. All right, on to some lighter stuff here as we transition out of that sad news. I will be doing a Royal Rumble photo event on January 28th and 29th at Wonderland Mall of the Americas in San Antonio, Texas during the Rockin' Wrestling Collectibles Show. Come by to get a free green screen photo with the authentic WWE title in a professional photo studio. Also attending will be Ted DiBiase, Jake the Snake Roberts, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, Bushwhacker Luke, and a couple others will all be there. So come by, say what's up to me if you're there. If you're in town for the Royal Rumble, details will be in the description of this video and on my Twitter and Instagram. Now, let's talk about some wrestling. Let's do what we came to do. Let's speak on what's happened. And took last night off because it was a holiday, and I guess I probably should have posted that on YouTube, but I just figured the kids had the day off. I didn't have time to get any notes or anything together, so I took the day off, and I came in fresh here on Tuesday to talk about Monday Night Raw. And one of the biggest takeaways I think that everybody's talking about from Monday Night Raw is we've begun to get into the meat of this bloodline story that we've known has been coming. It's been no secret that we were headed down this path, and I think we finally have the door that is going to open to bring us to the WrestleMania main event that has been teased for over a year now. And that is, we were told that we're getting a bloodline Roman Reigns acknowledgement ceremony with members of basically all of the Samoan family. Everybody should be there. That's what they're hinting at. And so you got to know, this is it. This is the door opening for, we're probably going to get, in some form or fashion, our first look at The Rock and Roman Reigns in the ring together. And possibly we will see how this is going to unfold. What is the first string that will unravel? Is The Rock going to acknowledge Roman Reigns and later we get some tension, or are we jumping straight into it? But I think this is, I'm okay with how we're jumping into this. I think this is a clever way to get into this story. I think that, I keep reading that Royal Rumble sales are fine, but every time I check Ticketmaster, there's a lot of tickets left. And I'm wondering if they don't think they need to advertise The Rock pre-Royal Rumble. And this would be the perfect way to do it. Have him come in the Monday before, show up, even if it's in a video package, even if he's not there in person, but some kind of stare down or situation between Roman and The Rock, leading us into knowing that The Rock is entering the Royal Rumble. I think that pushes those seats over the top, and the Royal Rumble probably sells out. I do still wonder right now, you've spoiled all your surprises. It feels like they've blown all the surprises for Royal Rumble. We know, Charlotte came back, Becky came back, Cody's been announced, and now it seems more than likely that The Rock will in some form or fashion make an appearance on Raw next week. So I don't know what's left for the Royal Rumble for a big surprise, but maybe they're not worried about that. Maybe they assume if The Rock shows up, they don't need any big surprises, that The Rock being there is enough to get the wrestling world talking. And I believe that it probably is. I don't know that they need a ton. You don't need a ton outside of The Rock showing up. And if The Rock shows up, is he in the Royal Rumble? Does he cause a problem in the Royal Rumble? What is it? Time will tell. But I think that we've been predicting this for the last couple weeks. I think I've been saying this at least for 3 or 4 weeks now, that them spoiling Cody coming back meant that there was a bigger surprise scheduled for Royal Rumble. And I think that surprise had to be The Rock. And so whether they spoil that early or whether it remains to be seen, maybe the ceremony goes over with no problems on Monday and The Rock doesn't show up until the following Saturday at the Royal Rumble. Who knows? But something's happening. But there's definitely, you can start to see the tension building. I said it last week, and I think that I'm gonna double down on it this week. I think that the Bloodline and the Usos will lose the tag team titles to Dominic and Damian. I don't know if it's this week or if something happens to cause a problem this week that gets them another shot at it. But I do believe that the cracks are beginning to form. I do believe it is going to be, we're going to see the beginning of the end of the reign of the Bloodline. I don't know that we ever see the end of the Bloodline, but maybe just this dominant reign of the Bloodline will come to an end. And I think that it's the right thing to do is put those tag team titles on Dominic Mysterio and Damian Priest. I do believe that, because right now, whether it's go away heat, whether it's real heat, Dominic Mysterio is generating, he's easy to dislike. And so I think putting the tag team titles on him will be enough of a distraction that the Usos, whatever happens, the Usos can play it off and be okay coming out of that. But it does look like to me the Bloodline may have a real problem. The same problem that the OC had. So hopefully Triple H and WWE handles that a little more efficiently this time than they handled it last time by bringing back Michin and then having her just get absolutely destroyed by Rhea Ripley and then moving on from that story altogether. Is Michin even still part of the OC? And this is what I talked about last week with Triple H's storytelling and his inability to close out or begin a new story. You have to give closure on these situations. If Michin is no longer with the OC and she's out on her own, then we should have got some kind of closure. No matter if that meant AJ Styles showing up in a wheelchair and telling her to go, while I'm gone, you go do this on your own. Something, we needed closure. There's no continuity in the storytelling from Triple H and WWE right now. But if the Bloodline have a Rhea Ripley problem, it seems more likely than not the Bloodline are going to need a female competitor here. And what a better time to bring in a female competitor than if all of the Bloodline extended is going to be on Monday Night Raw. That leaves you some interesting options, right? Will the Bloodline add Tamina? Will the Bloodline have Naomi? Will the Bloodline have Nia Jax? They're all viable options. I'm going to guess, if I had to guess, I think it's Naomi. I think that with all of the Mercedes Moné stuff cleared up, I think this is the perfect opportunity to bring back Naomi for this ceremony of acknowledgement for Roman Reigns. I think that Tamina over the years has been too diminished to seem like a credible threat to Rhea Ripley. I think that Naomi could seem like a credible threat and could also easily kind of roll into the Royal Rumble as another big name for the women's division. But this bloodline stuff, this is the best thing going in wrestling right now. It definitely is. And it definitely looks like it's amping up. And it definitely looks like, for the time being, that Triple H knows what he's doing creatively with the bloodline. That this hasn't suffered since he took over. But once again, I said we can't credit all this bloodline stuff to Triple H. This was a Vince McMahon baby as well. And this thing has just taken a life of its own, and Sammy has built it up, and KO has been a strong part of it, and Roman's done a good job, and the Usos have done a good job, and Solo's done a good job. This is the best thing in wrestling right now. You know what I don't think the best thing in wrestling is right now? Alexa Bliss and Bianca Belair, and not for the reasons that you may think. It's not individually pointing at either one of these wrestlers. It's just that this booking doesn't work. You're taking Bianca Belair, your Raw Women's Champion, and you're placing her against possibly one of the most fan favorite women's wrestlers in the entire industry, in Alexa Bliss. And you've put them in an awkward situation where I think, moreover than the crowd turning on Bianca, I think the crowd is confused at this point. I don't think the crowd knows who they want to cheer for and who they want to boo. And that's a weird thing to do to your baby face, your top baby face in the company, possibly, in Bianca Belair, who has been, for the record, 36-1 since WrestleMania. 36 wins, 1 loss post WrestleMania. And you're telling me now you're putting that person that you've invested all this time into this weird situation, in this weird feud with Alexa Bliss, someone who the crowd just will not turn on. And even farther than just Alexa Bliss and the crowd's love for her, right now, WWE fans are highly interested in everything that is surrounding Bray Wyatt, Uncle Howdy, The Fiend, and Alexa Bliss. So now you want the crowd to turn on 50% of that storyline. It doesn't make sense. This is poor booking. And so for everything they're doing right with the bloodline, I think this booking is extremely confusing, and I don't know what they intend to accomplish. And I said, I think a couple weeks ago, and I'll reiterate it right now, the only way that this doesn't get just completely a shit show and messy, I think Alexa Bliss has to win the WWE Raw Women's title coming out of this feud. And I think that's highly unlikely. But I think that it would make sense. There's been all this talk about Charlotte Flair jumping over to Monday Night Raw post Royal Rumble, but it might make more sense for Bianca to drop the title, jump over to SmackDown for the couple of weeks leading up to WrestleMania, and for her to be the underdog chasing the champion. I don't like it the other way around. I don't like it Charlotte Flair jumping over to Monday Night Raw. And I don't want champion versus champion. I'm over that idea. So one of the two, if we do believe that it's going to be Bianca Belair and Charlotte Flair, which is what the rumors have been up until now, one of them has to drop the title, and it seems like Alexa Bliss would be a good candidate to take the title off of Bianca Belair. And I could even possibly see doing something with Alexa Bliss and Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania would probably get over with the crowd. I think that those two could have a solid main event or just championship match at WrestleMania. But if they don't book it that way, I don't know what they're doing. If they continue to put Bianca Belair in these unfavorable situations, they've just booked Bianca Belair so poorly since she won at WrestleMania. I went over it a couple weeks ago where I broke down the matches that she had been in, and not one of them has been a credible long-term feud, including Bayley. The Bayley booking was messy because you included too many other faces. And by faces, that just other characters. It didn't make sense. In other news here, looks like, so Ariel Helwani went on the Bill Simmons podcast and called Stephanie McMahon's exit bad news for the WWE. Now, I'm a fan of Ariel's. I like Ariel. I actually saw him at WrestleMania and regret not going up and having a conversation. He was standing by himself, and there was an opportunity to talk to him, and I just didn't do it. Don't know why. Probably should have done it. But Ariel said when Vince McMahon left, it was like the clouds had opened. Everyone's spirits were high. No one says a bad thing about Stephanie McMahon. It's a remarkable thing. Nobody ever speaks badly of her. Everyone seems to respect her tremendously. I've said this. This was my exact sentiment the last couple weeks. All of the IWC is so worried about the booking of Vince McMahon if he comes back. I'm not worried about the booking. The booking hasn't changed. Whatever Kool-Aid you guys drank that made you think that Triple H had the booking just, in a whole different direction, it hasn't happened. What changed was the morale. The morale of the locker room went up, which made guys work harder, which made guys like Kevin Owens, I think, put in, instead of 110%, 120%. And so it's definitely the morale that the IWC needs to worry about, not the booking. The booking is going to be the booking. I truly believe that Vince McMahon has been talking to Triple H since the day he left the company. Triple H may have the final say so, but you're crazy if you think the father-in-law of the CEO or the COO or the whatever Triple H doesn't have some input, or at least just isn't in the ear whispering the things that he thinks would work. And they're not bouncing ideas off of each other. But I think you can already tell. You can see by certain people coming out and speaking. You can tell by Bray Wyatt liking certain tweets on the internet that the morale is shifting. It's already shifting. I think that when Vince McMahon left and Stephanie took over and Triple H was head of creative, I think there was this shift, not just in WWE, but there was a shift in AEW of people going, that's the company I want to work for, WWE. And now I think with Vince returning, that it kind of closes that wall again. I imagine that there's a couple people in AEW who thought, hey man, when my contract's up, I'm going to jump back over with Triple H. And they may have second thoughts. I think that's true. And I think that Ariel Helwani is right on the dot with that is the biggest effect we're going to feel from Vince McMahon coming back, not the booking. The booking isn't an issue. The booking is going to be the same. It hasn't changed that much. Most of the stories that you guys are trying to claim are so interesting were probably kind of put in place already pre-Clash at the Castle, pre-SummerSlam. So I've never been one to give Triple H his flowers for the booking, but I do believe that the morale changed within WWE. I definitely do, and I think that some of the people that Triple H brought back felt more comfortable in their return. And you got to wonder, how nervous are those people now that Vince McMahon's back in the building? And I know I've seen memes and jokes about it, but you really have to wonder, how nervous is Bray Wyatt? How nervous is Karrion Kross? How nervous just pick someone, right? Anybody that Vince released, just pick them, hit row. They all got to be nervous. On Monday Night Raw, we saw messy booking in the version of Hurt Business somewhat looking like they're getting back together. And I'm tough on Triple H, but there's a reason I'm tough on Triple H. Is because I see these things and I watch these Monday Night Raws and I go, I know what you were trying to do, but it's like you don't know how to tell the story. And the MVP thread line that was weaved throughout the show, it should have been very effective. I don't know if MVP missed some of his marks or his spots, but it was messy and it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense how MVP got involved in Cedric Alexander in the Street Profits match and in some reverse way got the Street Profits a win. It didn't really make sense how Omos came out and had a stare down with Bobby Lashley, but then ultimately helped him win. A lot of that was messy. And I think I know where they're going. I think I know the direction they're going. But as a casual fan, speaking for other casual fans, I think that it was extremely messy. And so I think, I just think there's more elegant ways that Triple H has to learn to elegantly tell these stories and get this across to casual fans. I think what's going on here, I have a theory at least, that the Hurt Business is getting back together, but it's not going to be the original Hurt theory or Hurt Business. I think that it's going to be the Street Profits, Omos, and Bobby Lashley this time. I think we're going to tweak it a little bit. And I think that the Street Profits could benefit from possibly maybe a heel run with Lashley and Omos. That could work, show a different side of them, give them something to do for the time being if they're not going to be involved in one of the tag team titles pictures. I think that works. And I think that Bobby Lashley could always use a mouthpiece, an MVP, and I think Omos just needs credibility, and hopefully these other superstars can give him credibility. So I think that's what's happening. But that was a very convoluted way. And if it doesn't end up being that, if this ends up being just the original Hurt Business plus Omos, wow, that was horribly put together. Do you want the chance to win a $25 WWE gift card? The Casual Wrestling Daily Show is now on all podcast networks, and we need your help. Head over to Apple Podcast or Spotify and leave the show a 5-star review. Then make sure to tag us on your preferred social media network. Drawings will be held after each WWE Premium Live event, so head over to Apple Podcast or Spotify and make it rain stars on the Casual Wrestling Daily Podcast. Back to the show. What else do I have here? Oh, Cody Rhodes announced Cody Rhodes for the Royal Rumble. This wasn't news. This wasn't a surprise. He's been on the posters already. We knew this was coming. They're not going to sit and waste time talking about this. It's Cody Rhodes is back. Come Royal Rumble, we'll get to see Cody back, and he'll pick up where he left off. And I think the truth of the matter is, there's going to be disappointed people after the Royal Rumble because I don't think he's in a title picture anytime soon. I think that the plan is for The Rock to win the Royal Rumble, and I'm guessing Seth Rollins is going to eliminate Cody Rhodes, and we're going to get another Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins match at WrestleMania, which I guess you can't be too upset about because it'll be a good match, but more of the same. Once again, we're talking about Triple H's amazing booking that you guys tell me about. But if he just rebooks the same match we had at WrestleMania last year, I'm not drinking that Kool-Aid. Read an article about Dominic Mysterio. Dominic Mysterio was on the K100 podcast talking to Conan, and I thought there was an interesting little tidbit in that podcast where he talked about he had begun to get a reputation for missing flights and being late to shows. Now, I don't know if this is Dom in character playing up to this new prison Dom role. That's great. That's fine. Cool. It works. But if this is true, man, this is the type of shit that leads people to go nepotism. This is why I've been so hard on Dominic Mysterio. This is why I continue to say I don't think he's built for this business. There's certain things you do. Punctuality is extremely important, especially if you are somebody up and coming in a company. And if he's actually missing flights and showing up late and he's not being reprimanded and not getting, scolded for this, because he went on to say that he's never really been scolded by management. If these kind of things are happening, this just doubles down on the nepotism thing, right? This just doubles down on the idea that he's living off of his dad's coattail. And I did read the article, or I read some excerpts from the podcast where Dom talked about he feels like he's a natural heel. And he's not a natural babyface. I got to tell Dom right now, I don't know that Dom's a natural anything. And that's okay. You can have to work, but to hear him speak, or not to hear, but to maybe it's out of context, but to read the words that I read about Dominic Mysterio talking about how he thinks, he is doing an extremely good job in the Judgment Day. It bothers me and worries me because I feel like if I was Dom, I would hope that I had enough self-awareness to know that I am getting go-away heat and that hopefully I can turn that heat into real heat. But right now, the prison Dom stuff, while it's funny, it's cringy. It's not extremely over with the fans because he can't quite fully commit to it to make it a bit. He's using it and it's funny, but he's not 100% in the character. He doesn't have that acting chop yet. And that's something he needs to go cut his teeth in NXT and build up that confidence to be able to sell a character like this. Cause it's a great opportunity for Dominic Mysterio, but I just think he's going to end up falling flat ultimately. But if you're missing flights and you're showing up late, it just shows a little bit of a disrespect for the business. And then to go on a podcast and almost kind of, kiki kaka, laugh about it. I think that's bad. I think that's bad for the character of Dominic Mysterio. And I think that's bad for just in general, the argument of nepotism. According to Eurogamer and Inside Gaming, more information about WWE 2K23 is scheduled to be revealed at the Royal Rumble at an event in San Antonio. Now, I haven't read about any events, so I don't know where this would be taking place. Maybe it's in the Alamo Dome during the Royal Rumble, but I haven't seen any news for a 2K23 event in our city here. It is rumored that the game is going to be released in March of 2023 and that hands-on gameplay and a new mode will be revealed at the Royal Rumble. Additional information will be revealed on February 1st. That's all news to me. I didn't know that. That seems like a short window to try and sell people on your game. That always scares me that you wait until about a month before the game to start talking about it. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a bad thing. I'm going to guess that we get a lot more of the same from last year. And I'm wondering if there's not nerves on both sides from WWE and AEW. These games are lining up to where they may possibly release at the same time. So that's interesting. I wonder if both companies are keeping an eye on the other one, wondering, when this is going to hit. Last couple stories here I want to talk about. One is Jade Cargill is the latest superstar to come out and speak highly of CM Punk. The list continues, man. The list continues to grow, and I am a supporter. I am on the CM Punk side. I am Team CM Punk when it comes to the media scrum and everything that happened. It may have taken me a while to convert over, but based on the people I see talk positive about CM Punk, the Dax Harwoods, the Ricky Starks, the Jade Cargills, the Darby Allins, it feels like there were quite a few people who weren't happy to see him leave AEW. And the more I see the Jacksons, Kenny Omega, the Elite, the more they rub me the wrong way. They're great performers. They can flip around. They're the Circus Soleil of professional wrestling. But the more I watch, the more I tend to believe that, they just didn't like CM Punk. They just didn't want him on their playground. And hearing Jade Cargill speak, it just reaffirms that inside my head that I think CM Punk, he was there to do good. He was there to try to create change in a place that didn't know it needed to change. And so I think now, once again, that the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, they've got everything running the way they want. And I think CM Punk is going to be the odd man out in that. But I think it's interesting to see when you start running down that list, Powerhouse Hobbs, Ricky Starks, Jade Cargill, Dax Harwood. You start talking about all the guys who do speak highly of CM Punk. Maybe he's not the bad guy. And the last thing I'm going to talk about here is Saraya went onto Twitter and posted a tweet with a clip of her wrestling that said, "The amount of neckbeards lately, angry, sweating while they mad type underneath every post I do just because I'm happy wrestling again is nuts. Lower that blood pressure, brothers. Don't want to pass out because of lil old me. Anyways, here's a clip of me wrestling." I don't get this. I don't understand this. First off, I hate the word neckbeard because it's like a millennial term. It's like woke. It's these terms that are just made to identify fucking people that really don't exist. And if they do exist, Saraya, that's your audience. I hate to tell you. If there is such thing as a neckbeard equals IWC, which equals your audience in AEW. You chose the company full of neckbeards. You chose the company full of the IWC. And if you think that in a sport, which is a loose term for what you do, but in a sport that is 100% based on the outcome of how fans are receptive to what you do, you come out and criticize people for being critical, that's insane, man. It's insane to me. Some things are better left unsaid, even if you really feel this way. It just seems like you don't want to fuel this fire. You don't want to, look, here, you want brutal honesty. You want the truth. The truth is your return has been That's what it's been and we're glad you're happy. I'm glad you're happy doing what you do. And I'm glad that you've come back and got to do what you do after what you went through. But like, you have to have enough self-awareness to understand that on everything you do, there's going to be 50% of people who like what you do, and there's going to be 50% of people who don't like what you do. And going on Twitter and complaining about it, it's a waste of breath. It's a waste of typing. And then to call out your audience is just, it's fucking asinine. It's insane. The amount of neckbeards That's your audience, Saraya. That's what you signed up for. AEW is the neckbeards. You got to know that's what it is. Oh, man. These people make me laugh here. What do we got on the docket for tomorrow? Tomorrow we'll talk about what happens on Dynamite, and also I'm going to be filling out a Royal Rumble bracket sheet from friend of the show, Corey, and I'm going to probably do that live on the show, and I've considered going live to do it. Maybe I'll post something tomorrow if I decide to go live. It'll be tomorrow night around 10:30 p.m. Central Time. Not for sure, so don't bank on that. But there's a possibility I'll go live and we'll fill that bracket out together so that we can win. We can win that bracket, because I have no clue. I honestly have no clue this year on what I think is going to happen in the Royal Rumble. But that is all the time we have today. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Casual Wrestling Daily Podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's show. If you have any suggestions or thoughts for future episodes, please don't hesitate to reach out and drop those in the comment section. And don't forget to join us tomorrow, same place, same time, for more wrestling talk. Until then, we can ring the final bell.
Step in the ring, if you ready, let's go. Ay, Casual Wrestling Community Show. You already know, talking WWE. Keep it rolling and hosted by Notorious Nerdy D. Don't be sure that you gon' find. Tune in cause it's online. Hit 'em with a figure 4 leg lock, power driver or clothesline. We bringing that heat like the show, but you should